Please welcome the professor, Eric Wachtel.
Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here with you at the launch of on our second day here of our 2022 launch. So just going to put my slides up, and I want to start by engaging you with a question. What is the most common type of compliance audit advisors will experience in 2022? So Don and Lisa, I'm going to ask you to monitor the chat box, see if we start to get some answers in. And a little later on, I will check with you and provide the answer, but just want you to think about that. Now, before you can start to think about that, it helps to know what types of audits are you susceptible to in our industry. So there are 4 key types of audits that are occurring right now in the insurance industry. So I'll discuss this one first, which is Carrier Advisor Practice Reviews, or APRs. This is where the insurance companies that you're contracted with can choose to select you for an audit. This is typically an audit where they send you a questionnaire and ask you a series of questions that I'll go over a little later. Just wanted to start out with this question and going over the 4 different types of audits now that you can see them. So number 2 on this list is your provincial insurance regulator. So they too can select you for audit. Now I find provincial regulators kind of do their audits on a project basis, so not just scattered throughout the months, but they'll decide it's time to do an audit sampling. But typically they'll be looking for the same things that an APR audit would look for. Then number 3, we have the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Act, otherwise known as AML, short form for Anti-Money Laundering. And by law, you're required to have an anti-money laundering compliance manual in your practice that tells you and your staff how you detect, deter, and report potential instances of money laundering or terrorist financing. And FINTRAC is the governing body that oversees this act, and they can select you for audit as well. And probably on this list, FINTRAC is the most powerful entity that you would be audited for, and you know, they have the most powers in terms of fines and even other types of charges. So very important there. And lastly, we have a privacy audit by the Office of the Privacy Commission of Canada or their provincial counterparts. And I don't see any advisors being selected for privacy audit, but where they would potentially audit an advisor is if a breach occurred and then it became evident that the advisor did not have a privacy compliance manual in their practice that had complete procedures on how to prevent breaches and what to do if breaches occur. So if a breach occurred and consumers were damaged, their information was let loose, and it showed that the advisor didn't really know what they were doing, didn't know how to report it to the commission, privacy commission, didn't know how to report to clients and take steps to protect their clients. That's when they might come in and say, well, let's look if you even have this in place. Because as a handler of private information in Canada, independent advisors are required to have a privacy regime in their practice. So, so these are the 4. So now, according to my initial question, what's the most common type of audit you can experience and advisors can expect to experience in 2022? Let me provide you with some more context. So FSRA is the new regulator in Ontario. So the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario. In 2021, they performed an exhaustive study of compliance in the life insurance industry, and they published their findings on July 27th, 2021. I want to emphasize here, this wasn't just an audit sampling of advisors. This was an in-depth, deep dive into distribution in the market, in the insurance marketplace in Ontario. So they interviewed insurance companies, exhaustively. They even obtained copies of carrier producer agreements, the agreements you sign with carriers, so they can see exactly what obligations carriers are putting on advisors and what they expect them to do. They looked at MGA agreements between carriers and MGAs. So they really did a deep dive. And I was quite impressed, actually. And I encourage you to Google this study, FSRA Insurer MGA Relationship Thematic Review. And it's not long. It's like 19 pages or so, 23 pages or so. But it's a good read for anyone looking for insight into what the regulator's thinking and what they're seeing and what their next steps might be in terms of compliance in the life insurance industry. So what did they find in this study that they did? So first of all, they revisited some of the audit work that FSCO had done. So FSCO was the previous regulator in Ontario, Financial Services Commission of Ontario. So FSCO had done audits in 2016, 17, 2017, 18, 2018, 19. So three different years or periods of audits. And you can see the different categories that they looked at here. So needs assessment. Did advisors have needs-based documentation justifying the insurance sales in their client files? So you can see to the left there in 2016, 17, 31% of advisors audited by FSCO did not have evidence of needs analysis in their file. 2017-18, another audit showed that figure improved and that only 23% of advisors audited were not in compliance with that requirement. But then, sadly, in 2018-19, 34% of advisors. So it was right back up to where, fully a third of advisors who were looked at did not have needs-based evidence in their client files. The next set of bars, we see recommendations documented. Did the advisor have recommendations? Kind of like in a reason why letter serves well as a recommendation as well in terms of why did the client buy this product. So again, you see the stats there, 2016-17, 29% not in compliance with this requirement. Then it improved a little bit, and then it got worse again, 2018-19. And the next one over, records of client discussions. You always hear about this. Do you have client notes, meeting notes, records of email dialogues between you and your client? This tends to happen, or you're requested for this during E&O claims. And this is what can save you or leave you to the wolves, so to speak, if you don't have evidence. So when FSCO looked into client files of advisors, again, they found a fairly steady at around 29 to 31% in all three different periods of time, where 30% of advisors, or 29 to 31%, did not have records of client discussions. And then we look at the last set there, which is client acknowledgement. So client acknowledgement means disclosure. Can advisors provide evidence to FSCO at the time that they had given disclosure of their practice, their advisor disclosure document, to their clients? And here you see 25% did not in 2016, 33% did in 2017, 33% did not, so it got worse. And then thankfully it improved in 2019. So this kind of gives you an insight into what they're looking at. And you can see some gaps here for sure. Then they also used this pie chart in the report, which is complaints related to life insurance and accident insurance. So looking in the industry, this is where the complaints they saw are coming from. And I'll start with the smallest part of this pie chart, which is product administration. So this is where consumers are complaining against, call this in-force service, customer service, something about how their product is being administered. Maybe they can't get through for service to 1-800 numbers, things like that. Next, we have marketing and sales, comprise 19% of the client complaints. And this is where a client is basically, I'm obviously paraphrasing here, but I was misled. I bought this product, it isn't doing what I thought it was supposed to do. So here you can look at this perhaps being an insurer or advisor issue, where perhaps the insurer is creating marketing materials that weren't quite accurate, or perhaps were misleading, or maybe they were just too complex and clients couldn't figure them out. or perhaps the advisor was creating their own materials and projections and projecting too high, something like that. But something went wrong during the marketing and sales of the product for a client to suddenly feel like they were let down years later. Then the next category, 30% of the complaints were other. And when I checked with FSRA what that comprised, they said it's things like claims, policy provisions, underwriting of a product, complaints in those categories. And again, you can say that's an insurer type issue. But the largest component of this complaint wheel here was agent suitability. Now, what does that mean? So here I am, this is a client, I'm paraphrasing again, saying, basically, what was this advisor even doing with a license? Or what were they doing with a contract to sell Manulife or Sun Life or Canada Life or all the other carriers' products to consumers? So when I spoke with FSRA about this to get some examples, it's things like just the advisor not having full compliance in their practice. Perhaps they didn't have an AML manual. Perhaps they didn't have a privacy manual and a breach occurred. And the client suffered all kinds of damage and then realized their advisor was very reckless with their data. So these are what we call agent suitability. Perhaps they didn't have financial needs analysis or risk tolerance questionnaires to back up the investment products they sold to clients. So when you look at this, this is where consumers are saying, hey, that person wasn't suitable to be in the industry. And you could say this is an insurer issue, even a regulator issue, because they're the ones that issue the licenses and they should be knowing who has the proper manuals in their practice, and maybe even an MGA issue. But this gives you an insight into the type of data that FSRA is looking at and they're seeing. So, when you look at this, and even if I go to the previous slide, ask yourself, if you were selected for audit by your regulator, regardless of which province you're in, how would you fare in these 4 categories? And do you see any of these potential issues in your practice? Great. So again, I'm about to ask Don and Lisa if any good answers have come into the original question of this presentation, but just want to give you some more insight into the conclusion of this study that FSRA did about the state of distribution in the province of Ontario. So this is one of their conclusions, and again, I encourage you to have a look at the report. But they stated or summarized, insurers do not proactively risk assess their agents contracted through MGAs, nor do they conduct a meaningful volume of agent reviews, which are APRs. The study quoted some insurance companies having 26,000 contracted advisors just in Ontario. And if you can see how the regulator is looking at that and saying, if all you're doing is selecting 200 advisors a year to do an advisor practice review, that's not enough. That's not a meaningful cross-section. Secondly, FSRA said, it is not clear that the current number of reviews being conducted provides the insurers with meaningful information regarding the effectiveness of their agent oversight programs. So at this point, Don and Lisa, did anyone float any answers in terms of the most common type of audit advisors will experience in 2022?
Hi, Eric, it's Lisa. Yeah, what we had was a couple people say AML, the KYC, client file audit, and then insurance company audits. Okay,
great. So the answer is the last one that you just read to me, which is the insurance company audits. So they are, and I think that last slide I showed you probably was why that answer was floated last, because it's clear that the regulator's kind of looking at the insurance companies saying, you got to get a better handle on advisors you contract to represent your products to consumers. You got to go in there and see how that advisor's set up. So that is the most common type of audit. And these are actually in sequential order, where the second most common will be provincial insurance regulator audits, proceeds of crime, and then privacy. So what do you need to have in place in your practice? Like Greg said at the beginning of this, we want to keep compliance simple. You need to have it. What do you need to have in place so you can pass these APRs with flying colors and a regulator audit? Because they're very much the same. It's just the severity of a regulator audit is higher, but they both cover the same types of things. So the compliance formula has not changed. Okay, for those who have attended my past webinars, the formula is the same. It is intensifying though, in that more and more eyes are going to be looking at this. So thankfully, there's only two main areas of advisor compliance that you need to have in your business. One is your practice compliant? Do you have your AML compliance manual? Do you have your privacy manual, your market conduct manual, proof of your E&O, your CE credits, your holding out materials, things like that, okay? Secondly, are your client files compliant? Do they have the needs analysis, the disclosure? And we call, this is summarized by the approach, which was an industry agreed upon way to populate a client file from a compliance perspective. So you can think of it as how you approach a client. What do you do? When do you collect this and that to create a complete client file? Okay, so on that second part, this is the approach. So again, you've probably heard me say this before, and you can certainly visit IDC Win Institute Compliance Course number 6, parts 1 and 2 that are on Win Big for this course. But it just covers the 7 client file elements you should have in your practice. So I won't go through these today. We have limited time. We are going to be having a fuller compliance webinar in March. Hope you'll sign up for that, and we'll get deeper into these. So how do you take this simple formula and build it into your practice simply so you can make sure you're looked after, make sure you can pass audits, and keep doing the good work you're doing with clients, generating new business, providing great service to your clients? I want to stop here for a second and just focus in on a session that Don Hart organized, I believe back in November, December. It was a master class with industry famed Wayne Cotton. And Wayne's been around forever, and for those who didn't get a chance to attend this, a visual recording is on Win Big. Next time you're on a road trip, have a listen. It'll be an hour well spent to listen to Wayne's wisdom. But what I liked, one thing I pulled out from this is Wayne talked about the 3 kinds of advisors we want to achieve. The 3 types of freedoms that we want our advisors to achieve. So the pinnacle of success in Wayne's mind is having these 3 types of freedoms in your life: financial freedom, time freedom, and mental freedom. And I thought this was a very interesting premise. You know, we can all think of people in our lives who perhaps have 1 or 2 of these. Hopefully you don't have none, but we know people, maybe even ourselves, where we have financial freedom, but you got no time. You're just always working. Or you have time freedom. Yeah, I got lots of time, but I don't have any money, and I'm behind on my bills. I'm not saving for the future. And then you have perhaps someone who has financial freedom and time freedom, but no mental freedom. Just, I'm always worried about things, I'm apprehensive. So he went on to ask, so this is the goal, obviously, not just for that we want for you, our advisors, but you might want this for your clients as well. This translates well into client speak. But he went on to ask, is your business personality driven? And by that, he means, is it always about you? Are you always the guy or the girl on deck having to take care of everything? Or is it process driven? And you know, what we want to do for you, and obviously he said, if your business is personality driven, you're never going to have you're never going to achieve that pinnacle of success, which is having the 3 freedoms in your life. Because it's always about you. You're always required there. You don't have any processes to take the heat off of you. So how does this relate to compliance? Well, I'm really excited about the ways that we have at IDC to help you automate compliance into your practice. So we've got Apexa. It's a free system. I'll talk a little bit about how to use it in the next screen. We've got Echosoft client relationship management tool, allowing you to communicate securely with your clients, and a whole lot of other benefits I'll just quickly review. And then FSB, powered by AdvisorStream, an electronic newsletter, excellent source material. You know, it's a way to stay in front of your clients, especially during times of COVID. Stay top of mind, you know, and I always ask people, advisors, do you have an audience? Sure, I have 400 clients. Yeah, but do you have an audience? Because if you don't have a regular contact system for your clients that's automated, that's a process that's automated, then all you have is people who open a statement once a year, look at your name for 5 minutes and then throw it to the side. So super, super important. But let me just get into the Apexa one. So how does Apexa help you systematize compliance? Well, if you look at your profile, and you're required to reattest your profile once a year. So I know some people maybe don't go into the system very often, but you'll notice you're able to upload your compliance materials there. And it's one thing to do a manual. Someone attends a course, they write their manual, and then it goes into a drawer at their desk, or it's hidden in a file in their computer and they never look at it again. Well, when you post your manual to your Apexa profile, it's a one-stop shop that you have there, that you can look at all your materials, and it can help you with audits too, because when an auditor's there, you can just say, here's my compliance practice materials. There's my AML manual, there's my privacy manual, my F&A sample, my disclosure sample, it's all there. So it's a super good tool. I'm really excited though about Echosoft as well. You know, communicating with secure emails to your clients obviously is very important. There's a lot of automation in this system, but what I really love about it is it's highly customizable. And what I did here on this screen in the Echosoft system is I incorporated the approach into your sales cycle. So when you're tracking your sales opportunities, and which is a great process in itself, you know, when you're just trying to follow up leads and chase down those 5 leads you have this week. But when you have a system where you can follow up on 30 leads, and you're able to say, okay, here's the steps of my sales cycle. Prospect, I've got my prospect secured. I'm going to do my introduction. Then if that goes well, we'll proceed to fact finding. That's where you obtain your advisor disclosure and privacy. You got to get the client to sign it because you're now collecting private information. Then we have your problem identification. You're looking through the fact find, you know, examining that financial x-ray. You see a shortfall in insurance. That's when you pull out the financial needs analysis, go through that with the client. Present the solution, implement the sale. That's when you collect the reason why letter. So there's a great way to build compliance process into the CRM tool. And, you know, you can see here how it feels good for advisors to already start to track their opportunities and see which step they're at with each of their opportunities and prospects that they're working on. The system has, what I'm into now is the asset allocation module of it. And here you can see that they have great risk tolerance tools. And by great, I really like them. Like, they're not just questions. Some of them are written questions. Some of them are pictures. And we know that advisors, you know, some clients are auditory learners, but the great majority of the population are visual learners. So to be able to say to the client, you know, Mr. Client, on the left box here, which range of possibility outcomes for your investment would you be most comfortable with? And to the box to the right, you know, here's 4 different portfolios from A to D. Which one could you see yourself in? Which roller coaster would you like to ride, feel comfortable riding while still having fun? And the client picks one. So it just has great needs, risk tolerance, needs analysis built into it. And look at the reports. I mean, the reports, this syncs up with our back office investment system. You open up the gateway and your client's data is in here. And I mean, boy, oh boy, I would put their reports up against any bank, any investors group type boutique shop, even private wealth services offered by banks for high net worth clients. And this is a great way to manage your compliance, because what are we always honing in on? We're honing in on the growth. You know, are you 60% equity, 40% fixed income? Our risk tolerance questionnaire will set that. Well, you know what? When you have clients with 5 or 6 different accounts, it's hard to actually know exactly how they're balanced. This does that work for you. And look, I know, guys, you don't want to engage in paralysis by analysis. You don't want to throw complicated reports to people. But when you have investment accounts of 100, 200, 300,000, people start to expect this level of sophistication. They may not understand it, but they do appreciate it. And if they're ever questioning you as well, or maybe being enticed by a fancy bank or boutique elsewhere, you can generate these, you can make them simple or multi-page, and the client can see, okay, you're on top of this. So just to end this here, invest in yourself, invest in your business. I've put up some, of what the various costs are, and I'm going to be happy to delve more deeply into these tools. But these tools can not only power your business forward, but also help you be compliant. And, it's good to start with something or the entire suite, but these are just some examples of what you can do in your business. I hope this was helpful, everybody. And if there are questions that you floated in the chat box, I know we're on a tight schedule, but I'll be pleased to float some answers to those, and we'll post them in next week's bulletin under the compliance section, because love getting your questions and providing answers back to you.
Thanks, Eric. Awesome job as usual. And as Eric mentions, there's a number of events coming up, especially coming up in March.